Could the Menendez brothers be home by Christmas? You never know. I'm going to get into what's going on right now after the LADA, George Gascón, gave a press conference yesterday about their case. But before I do that, don't forget to like or subscribe to this channel. Okay, what happened yesterday? Yesterday was October 3rd, 2024, and the DA, George Gascón, gave a press conference at 2:30 West Coast time and 5:30 Eastern time, and he addressed the significant public interest in the Menendez brothers case, especially after the Netflix show came out, and there's a documentary coming out next week on October 7th. He started to explain two legal pathways for reviewing convictions, or how their office reviews convictions: habeas petitions, where new evidence is introduced that could potentially alter the outcome of a trial, and resentencing, which allows a reevaluation of an inmate's sentence based on rehabilitation and behavior while being incarcerated. So, as most of you know, the Menendez brothers are currently seeking review under both a habeas petition and resentencing. Now, the DA clarified that they haven't made a decision yet on this matter, but they emphasized their obligation to thoroughly review all newly presented evidence. And I put that in quotes because this habeas petition with the two new pieces of evidence was filed in May of 2023, but LA is very busy. They have a lot of cases they have to look through. So, that's that. So the two new pieces of evidence, most people know, it's a letter allegedly from one of the brothers, Eric Menendez to be exact, detailing past molestation at the hands of his father. He sent this to his cousin a few months before the murders happened. And then there was the signed affidavit from Roy Rossello, a member of Menudo, claiming that Jose Menendez also assaulted him as well. So the DA made it very clear none of this information has been verified yet. So the DA stated, again, that the Menendez brothers' guilt in the murders, factual. No one's disputing that. But he did pose two questions. Would this new evidence change the jury's decision, or would it have changed their decision back then? Under California law, is resentencing warranted based on the brothers' rehabilitation? Those are the two questions. Would the new evidence have altered the jury? And under California law, do they get a resentencing? So he also touched on the broader issue of sexual abuse. And he did recognize that both men and women can be sexually abused. Whereas I believe it was maybe the first trial or second trial, I can't recall, the prosecutor, Pam Bozanich, said that men can't be raped. And looking back, she should have used the proper term in court, or they should have used it. They should have said, no, men can absolutely be sodomized or raped, but I guess, yeah, different times. So the DA also, it's important to know that George Gascón is up for re-election. So he made sure to say, he highlighted their office's track records in resentencing over 300 individuals with a very low rate of reoffending. He was very proud to say that. So the last part that's super important is that he addressed that there is an upcoming hearing on November 26th, and this was corrected from the 29th. He initially said that, and then a woman came out and said, no, it's the 26th. So this could be a hearing. This could be a motion they file with their decision. We don't know. But he did say he hopes to have some finality in the case by the 26th, which I think is promising. But again, we don't know. So he made sure to say no final decision has been made as of yet per this request. And he also noted, when he was asked about the cultural shift in how sexual assault cases are handled. So he did acknowledge that the DA's office today would be more sensitive. So he continued to stress that the decision-making process is ongoing. And once again, the office is reviewing all evidence before they make their decisions. So I do want to play you the press conference that one of their lawyers, Mark Geragos, gave right after. I thought it was really wonderful because he did reiterate how much the boys have changed since they've been in prison, and they've changed not thinking that they would get out at any time. I mean, this had never even crossed their mind that they could potentially get out. So this was just them rehabilitated. Because in my opinion, as savage and horrifying as these murders were, these boys, they aren't horrific killers, if you will. I'm not afraid of them being on the street. I don't think they're going to kill me. And it's also interesting that we continue to refer to them as boys when they're actually in their 50s. It's really sad. So let me go ahead and play this right now. And by the way, this is on 1.25.
Evidence of the case.
Let's get to that press conference being held right now by Mark Geragos, who represents the Menendez brothers.
Of the family on both sides. The reaction today by the DA is what I've been saying for the last basically year and a half. A year and a half ago, we filed a writ of habeas corpus. We presented two pieces of evidence. The one was a letter from Eric to Andy Cato, which predates the killings by 8 months. The other was a declaration by Roy Rosello, who is another victim of Jose. The combination of those two, we believe, provide more than ample basis to set aside the result of the second trial. For anybody who's been following this, you'll remember that the first trial ended with there were two juries. Out of those two juries, both of them voted more than half for not guilty on murder and were hung. By the time the second trial came along, it was on the heels, 8 days, frankly. Evidence started 8 days after the acquittal of O.J. Simpson. The rulings changed, even though it was the same judge. The prosecution changed, and frankly, they were deprived of what I consider to be a meritorious defense. They have now served 35 years. In that 35 years that they have served in prison, they've been model prisoners. They have worked tirelessly in the face of literally no ability or expectation that they would ever get out to reform not only themselves, but the environment they find themselves. There has been a sea change in California. When they were convicted, California was in the throes of a prison expansion, a law and order expansion, and frankly, DA politics. And now we fast forward 35 years later, we've got a much more robust and evolved understanding of abuse, that yes, abuse can occur both with females and with males. I think it's time. Their family thinks it's time. I believe that what you saw today with District Attorney Gascón was that he has taken, I think, a rather bold step in that he has said he's going to make the final decision. It's it may not be a popular decision in prosecutorial circles, but I would think that in our culture, we've come a long way in the last 10 years, maybe 15 years. I think we're at a point now where any reasonable person taking a look at this case believes they should be out. And based upon that, I'm gratified. I'm hoping that sometime before Thanksgiving, which is when the next the response is due, that the DA will either concede the habeas or join in us in asking for a resentencing. And I'll take a couple of questions and then I'll turn it over to Brian Friedman. And he's not here, but Cliff Gardner, who is my co-counsel, deserves a lot of credit, because anybody who's followed this case knows he was the lawyer that argued this case in front of the Ninth Circuit. In fact, if you watch or listen to the Ninth Circuit argument, none other than one of the appellate justices back then said rather astutely that they certainly looked like they changed the rules of the game between trial number one and trial number two.
Mm-hmm. I've always thought that. I've always thought that they 100% changed the game. And I actually wrote something on my website, Pop Crime TV, yesterday about the Menendez brothers. And essentially, I mean, it was more of an op-ed mixed in with a bit of news. But for me, I can't get over the fact that they were facing death and there was a penalty phase in their trial, and that they were not allowed to have 100% of what they told their psychiatrist used, or they weren't allowed to have all of the witnesses that corroborated the abuse speak on their behalf, because what abuse does to a child, especially sexual abuse, I mean, that 100% shapes the way you think and the way your brain works, of course. So the fact that their lives were on the line and that was not permitted in the second trial during the penalty phase, that just feels like a huge, huge injustice. But We'll wait. I'll keep everybody updated. I have a whole playlist of the Menendez brothers as I continue to get expert opinions, weighing in on things. And you know what? I'm going to try to get a couple interviews of people directly involved with the case. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to Pop Crime TV. I'm Lauren Conlin.